Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Astrology Now. Hi, Babula. How are you?
Pretty good, thank you, Cheryl. All things considered in this crazy world we live in, I'm pretty good.
Oh, that's great. Good to hear that. This is a very significant and powerful eclipse with what I think are volatile combinations among the planetary gods right now as they dance and collide and put pressure on each other in this lunar cycle. And we've got 5 planets in the retrograde as well, sort of moving around, or not moving around, I should say. So there's a lot going on in this cycle and in the one after. So why don't you kick it off with the eclipse anyway?
Okay, yeah. So, 2 weeks ago, of course, we had the solar eclipse at 21 of Libra, and coming up on Sunday morning Eastern time, around 6:23 in the morning, Queensland, no daylight savings time. People can make the adjustment. But in the early morning of Sunday, October the 29th, is a full moon, lunar eclipse. The moon will be in Taurus at 5 degrees, opposite the sun at 5 degrees of Scorpio. Always a very powerful, potent combination. Anybody who has in their own birth chart planets sitting across those two signs of Scorpio and Taurus will know about it. It's a very, very strong, they are signs of power. And it's really quite potent. So I thought I'd just look at the planetary layout around the eclipse, and then we can sort of dive in a bit, diving in being the appropriate word for this Scorpio season that we're in.
Yeah.
So while the eclipse, the sun will be at 5 of Scorpio, Mercury just about 2 days ago has just moved into Scorpio. Mercury, the messenger, the mind, thinking, words, language, messages, and so on, the mental processes is now in Scorpio. And so even our thinking is deeper. It's more, it always feels to me like the detective mind.
Yes, yeah.
Like, we've got to go, there's something else behind there, deeper underneath. It's like digging up the dead bodies.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about what about the speech as well, like the sharp tongue or the
Yes.
long words or extreme speech or
Yes, and take no prisoners, and really like get down and get dirty even in some ways. And you could use analogies like archaeology, digging to get to the bottom of something.
yeah.
So our mind is now in that process with the sun, the different ways you can look at the sun. But one way I like to see the sun is, imagine it shining its light and power into that sign. So if Scorpio is about the hidden depths, we're shining a light into hidden depths.
Yes.
And Mercury's there thinking and processing and looking for information and deeper knowledge. And in fact, I was just chatting with you before about a healing session I had this morning. And it just occurs to me as I'm speaking about Mercury in Scorpio, there's a lot been going on with me lately internally, and in Scorpio, a water sign, a lot of feelings and some deep stuff's been moving in me. And before the session, I thought, I'm not going to talk about that. But the person who was facilitating the healing session, it just all opened up, and I found myself speaking these things that I thought, no, I'll keep that to myself. And it was the best thing I could have done. I spoke things that were very deep and very personal that I'm experiencing, and it just opened up so much. That's a very Scorpionic process. I came out of that session feeling lighter than I have for weeks.
Wow. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. And I've said this before, we both know we work in these fields ourselves as well. People who are therapists, healers, counselors, psychologists, shamanic practitioners, all of these fields. It's very unusual to find someone working in those fields who doesn't have Scorpio energy in their chart, because we're in deep waters here of the psyche, of the unconscious. And we're investigating and looking more deeply and to uncover often old wounds or traumas or issues that might have been hidden previously, to bring them to light.
Yeah.
So sometimes we just need to speak things that we might have previously thought we couldn't or shouldn't, that were taboo. Scorpio is very much a sign about taboo.
Yes, absolutely. And secret. Yeah, like you say.
Secrets. Yeah.
Mm.
So that's the Sun and Mercury. And of course, our friend Mars moved into Scorpio about a week or so earlier. So you've got these three interpersonal planets, the Sun, Mercury, and Mars, all quite close together, conjunct each other during this eclipse. And Mars is that masculine warrior energy of, action and go for it. And, we initiate things and make things happen in a very strong way in Scorpio.
Mm.
So that's the Scorpio side of things.
Well, I'm just thinking with the Mars too, like it's confrontational, it's escalation. Yeah. I'm just thinking about the things that are going on in the world,
Absolutely.
Impulsive, oppositional, all those sort of words come to mind,
Absolutely. Well, the horrors that are currently happening in the Middle East was all kind of triggered around pretty much within that 24-hour period of Mars moving into Scorpio. It's classic, the god of war, Scorpio. It can get pretty full on.
Yes.
And Scorpio, the sign of death, and
yes,
it can get pretty nasty,
Yeah.
So there's a lot going on in that. And every year, of course, the sun goes through Scorpio at this time. So we're always in a deeper, we're in deep waters. It's a water sign. And all the water signs, it all has to be felt. So we're feeling from a very deep place, which can get uncomfortable because the world doesn't always invite or welcome that.
Yeah, but if we don't touch on those feelings, we can't be transformed by them, can we?
Exactly.
We've got to
so that exactly. So that example for me of, emerging out of that session, just feeling like lifted and so much lighter and so much better is just a great example of that. Yeah. It's like if you've, had food poisoning, it's all going to come out.
Yes, well, it's purging, isn't it?
It's a purging. It's all got to come out. And that's, even in medical astrology, that's the Scorpio process. It's the purging of toxins.
Yeah.
Through every avenue possible, when you've had food.
I thought you were going to say every orifice.
Well, pretty much it comes out of everywhere. And the body won't let up until it's all out.
Yes, that's true.
And it's very intense and very uncomfortable and very yuck.
Yes.
That's right. Fabulous. So
great topic.
So the opposite polarity of that, we have the moon, of course, the full moon, which heightens everything, as we know, and everything is so much more in a full moon, sitting next to Jupiter, which expands everything.
Yeah.
In the sign of Taurus. And of course, Uranus continues his long, slow 7-year journey through Taurus. So we've got this very strong Scorpio Taurus polarity on this full moon eclipse. And it's such an interesting polarity. I thought it might be helpful to sort of unpack that a bit. How do these two signs operate sitting in this opposition to each other as a pair? As a polarity, two sides of one sort of theme, you could say.
So we've got Moon conjunct Jupiter retrograde in Taurus, and opposite Mercury Mars conjunct in Scorpio. Is that right?
That's right.
That's a volatile combination.
Very strong. Yeah, very. Yeah, and Mars happens to be exactly opposite Jupiter. Mars is at 11 Scorpio at the time of the eclipse, and Jupiter's at 11 Taurus. So that in itself is, anyone with a Mars-Jupiter combination, it might be a conjunction, a trine, a square, whatever it is, it really increases and that energy of Mars and makes it even bigger, even more, in this case, intense. We're talking about Scorpio, so it's big.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I'm just thinking about like Jupiter retrograde, because you've said before that retrogrades are more about internally, what's going
Yeah,
on internally for us, and Jupiter is about beliefs. So our beliefs could be challenged to change our perspective.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And retrogrades are also very much about the past, like um we're still processing stuff from the past, whatever that means to someone, we're exploring past energies, whether that's in the world,
Mm.
an event happens in the world, lots of big events happening in the world, what are the roots of that? Let's go back a bit and see how all this might have come about.
Yeah.
What are the origins of it?
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing too.
Yeah.
So,
Mm.
so Taurus, which is where this full moon will be, this eclipse is occurring actually in Taurus, is these are both fixed signs, and the four fixed signs in astrology are signs of power. These two just seem to be particularly potent. The
Mm.
other two are Leo and Aquarius. So Taurus is fixed earth, and there's many ways to look at it, as there always is with every sign. It's very pragmatic, hands-on. It's very much about our experience of being embodied, and that can often feel like being a soul kind of trapped and embedded in a body,
Mm.
having this very fleshy 3D physical experience of this body, this earth, the ground, the land, physicality. So Taurians live very much through the senses.
Yes.
Yep, smell, touch, taste, physicality.
Mm.
And so it's also a sign that's very motivated and oriented towards building and creating. So many artists and musicians, it's ruled by Venus, the goddess of love and beauty and the arts. Taurians love beauty, but you'll also see builders, farmers, people who work with their hands. They work hard physically. They have strong physical bodies.
Mm.
They build a life. They build a house. They build a bank account. They build a sense of material stability and security, money in the bank, piece of land,
That's right.
a career security. So it's very much on that physical plane in many ways. And, spiritually, we can look at the teachings of Buddha, and he said, what he saw was that the source of all human suffering is caused by attachment.
Mm.
And the Taurus becomes very attached because it functions so much through the physical. It relates to the physicality of life and picks up an object or sees an object and says, I want that, I'll have it, it's mine.
Yes. Yeah. Very possessive.
Can be very, very possessive, and then wants to control it. It's a
Yes.
fixed sign, wants to control it and hold on to it.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
When it's creating something, it's like, this is my baby. Even if you're supposed to do it in a team, this is my baby.
Exactly. Or if they, are an artist of some kind, like they create something, and on one hand, they might want to make money from it and sell it, but on the other hand, they don't want to let it go.
Yep. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So Taurus, it wants to hold on and accumulate, but then you've got Scorpio that wants to purge and let go.
Exactly.
Do we see a problem with this picture?
Yeah, there's a problem. There's a great tension going on here.
Yes.
The Taurus is building, creating, and manifesting. They're amazing manifestors. You watch a Taurian go, like I've been around a lot of Taurians in my life, in my family and friends, and when they apply that determined focus to something, the bull, get out of the way, like they're coming through, slow and steady, never give up, don't stop till the job is done.
Yeah.
Amazing and very admirable, but that determination is phenomenal.
Yeah.
And then to secure it and lock the doors and put the bolts over. And then on the other side, Scorpio, while over here Taurus is busy building, Scorpio is preparing the atomic bomb, to blow the thing up.
Talk about cross purposes, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Taurus is always looking for permanence.
Yeah, exactly.
And Scorpio's over there laughing and going, yeah, good luck with that.
Yeah, yeah. Taurus doesn't want to change. I mean, my son-in-law is a Taurus, and his default setting is no.
Right.
You know,
Yes, yes.
do you want to
And,
do
and
this? Can you
yeah, and you
go
can't push
there?
them.
No.
You cannot push. That's right.
No.
And I've learned, because it's, they're around me, they've been around me a lot in my life, to offer a new idea or thought that might be challenging to their sense of security, plant the seed and step away and leave it with them, because 2 or 3 years later, they've had time to process it and they might kind of come around, but they're not up initially. It's like total resistance.
Absolutely. And that's the exact advice I gave my daughter. She wants something to happen. I say, you have to plant the seed and let him think that it was his idea, and then you just walk away and let the magic happen. And she says 9 times out of 10, it does.
That's right. They come around, but they need time. It has to happen slowly.
Yeah.
It has to be processed. And they need to see that what's going to be the outcome or the result. Very result oriented.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And
So they are amazing creators and manifestors.
absolutely. I've got a friend who's a double Taurus, and man, just give her something to do and it'll get done. You can just count on her,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I've spoken to my dad before, but he ticked all the boxes, farmer, builder. And I was thinking of this earlier. Such a strong memory of when I was really little. He was a builder, and then we moved and he built to a small farm, and he built the house and built the farm. But I remember him with his old leather builder's belt, and an old mate of his, who was an old man, used to be a builder, gave to him. It was a treasure. Old, really good quality leather builder's belt, and his hammer and his tools were in there. And I'd see him go out and go to work and build this thing, and work like oh man, that man could work. Amazing. But he built a life,
Yeah.
from nothing.
The
So
other thing I was thinking about too with the Taurus, I know a control, like it's money, okay, to do with
yep.
money. But I was reading in particular gold bullion, and looking at the price of gold, ladies, like a few days ago, I think it was like $3,000 an ounce or something. And someone was speculating it through this whole situation in the Middle East. It could even go up to $5,000 an ounce. I mean, wow.
Amazing. Yeah, it's really jumped in just in the last week or two, hasn't it? Yeah. It's hit places it's never been before. So yeah.
And this is the fascinating thing about planetary movements, how they play out on the planet in these real life situations.
Exactly. And in so many different ways, but all in keeping with those energies and the things of those energies. And you saying that reminds me, outside the New York Stock Exchange is this phenomenal statue of a really powerful bull. Very famous. You can look it up. It's a very famous thing. And the bull is the symbol for the sign of Taurus, and if you've ever actually seen fairly up close a bull, man, what power. Because in the body, Taurus is the neck and the shoulders, of course. This powerful body of the Taurus bull. Yeah. And it's a sign also that I want to touch on of fertility and abundance. So the farmers, the gardeners, the procreation, women with Taurus sun, Taurus moon is so fertile. You just got to look at them sideways and they're pregnant, Oh, fertile. That sense of abundance of the earth and of nature. Yeah. Yeah. Great, very productive, very, very productive.
Interesting.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? And very stable. Like they are the stable people in the world. And my older sister is a Taurian, and as I've come and gone throughout my life, and I've been here, there, and everywhere, I come back and she's there. right? She's just there as this stable place for me. She has been all my life, a stable place for me to land. Always welcome me back. Stay here until you get yourself sorted for the next whatever.
Yeah,
Right? Yeah, because she's stable and holds, they sort of hold this ground. You know, they don't move a lot. Put their roots in. It's very interesting. So Scorpio on the other side is a water sign. And, you know, it's deep emotions. And as one person describes it, and I love this word, turgid, you know, it gets very turgid. It's a great word.
Yeah.
You know, still waters run deep. You can think of Loch Ness, you know, deep, 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 deep lake. You look down, there's just blackness and you don't know what's down there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm.
And you know, the animal, of course, is the scorpion, you know, the stinger. And of course, Scorpio is interesting because it has a number of animals that represent it, because it's a sign of transformation. So it starts with the scorpion, and then there's this transforming energy of the snake shedding its skin, and then the emergence as an eagle. And even, you know, another level we could say is even the dove. Like, it just goes through these cycles of purification and profound initiation and death and rebirth again and again.
Yeah.
Yeah. And crisis, you know, those initiations happen through crisis. Well, Taurus is over here busy nailing everything down, right, and securing everything. Scorpio's over here releasing and purging and dying and bringing about tremendous endings, and often quite cataclysmically, if there is such a word, you know.
Yeah.
And through crisis and drama and so on.
I have a friend who's going through something like that at the moment, and he's very ill. And, you know, at times he made his will, and he's only in his 40s, made his will, and he's giving away things, and he doesn't expect that he'll make it through this illness. But to me, I've been watching him for a while now, probably for the last year, and I can see it's an initiation. I think he's going to make it through, but I think it's an initiation of something, you know, that a deep initiation. His whole identity is being stripped off from him, you know. He's being stripped down to the bare bones.
Yes.
Trying to explain shamanic initiation experiences to him, hasn't quite got it yet.
Yes.
But he understands that, you know, just stripping himself down.
Yes.
And he's not focused on the I'm going to come out the other side yet. But so, you know, it's like any of us when we use that term, hit rock bottom.
That's it.
You know, hit rock bottom, and then it's when you start saying the only place from here is up.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so he's also giving away his Taurus possessions, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's giving away the stuff. He's clearing out.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Pluto is playing a very strong role at the moment. Yeah.
And even if, so I don't know who this is, even if he doesn't make it on a soul level, he's still going through an initiation, isn't he?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And it reminds me of, you know, what you've said before about in the shamanic practices, dismemberment.
Yes. Yeah.
Like that, isn't it?
Very much so. Yeah.
And I think, you know, since 2020, with the Saturn Pluto conjunction in Capricorn, Pluto being the ruling planet of Scorpio, and Uranus going through Taurus at the same time, we've all been through such intense initiations and transformation. You know, we've all changed, we've all evolved in all kinds of ways, and you know, many souls have already departed, and those who remain go through that experience of, you know, loved ones leaving and so on. It's very strong time of initiation.
And yet, at the same time, when I sit and I think, okay, how have I changed? I cannot put my finger on it. It's just such a deep inner process.
Yes.
It's like your foundations have shifted or just been rebuilt, but you can't quite think of, well, how is that different? You know, for me anyway. But
Yes.
you just know it's different.
And you know that you're not going back to where it was before.
Yeah, yeah.
In ourselves as well as in the world. That's right. We're not going back. And so an eclipse like this, you know, eclipses are really powerful catalysts. And in these two signs, for some people that will be experienced as an event, as an important event, not necessarily right on the moment or the day of the eclipse, but around, you know, we're in eclipse season. We had one 2 weeks ago, and we're in eclipse season, and eclipse energy remains active for many weeks. And, you know, many say even up to 6 months until the next eclipse. You know, that energy is still active. It certainly is for many days and weeks afterwards, at least. And so, for those who know their chart, you know, to look even at what houses these 5 degrees of Taurus and Scorpio is, do you have any planets there? Is it activating anything in the chart? And so they can be real catalysts and triggers for big situations, experiences, not necessarily negatively either. You know, there can be like major breakthroughs.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Like I feel like I've had a breakthrough today.
yeah.
And it can operate on subtle levels, but certainly with Taurus, it can have an impact on things like finances, the body, physicality, you know, physical objects, possessions, all those kinds of things. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yes, plays out for different people in different ways, doesn't it?
Exactly. And certainly on the world stage, you'll see these two signs, either one and very often both, showing up very strongly in the charts of those power-hungry megalomaniacs in the world, historically and current. Really, it shows up quite often. You know, they'll be either Scorpio or Taurus or both. You know, they'll be, it's because the negative side of these two signs is like absolute total control.
Yes.
And in Scorpio, the dark side of that is, you know, to manipulate, lie and cheat and be very, very corrupt and, you know, very secretive about it.
Yes, yeah. Interesting. We've certainly been living in a time of eroding checks and balances where they're desperately needed, you know.
So yes, it's almost like they've all gone.
Absolutely. Like people are just getting away with seemingly blue murder. And it's like, it's just like we're living in this polarity between the greed of corporations wanting to make a lot of profit at the expense of damaging our environment, or you know,
they don't give two hoots,
going unattended to, those sorts of things.
Yeah, and the erosion of all our freedoms and so on.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's like the Wild West. Like it's like it's become lawless in that regard. The laws still apply to us, but for them, they're living in quite a lawless kind of a state. It's very interesting. Yeah. So this eclipse is really quite a potent one. You know, we know, as I said before, big things are happening in the world. So I think, you know, with the full moon in Taurus, you know, how can we be with that in a way that's helpful for us? Well, you know, I come back to, like, one of the beautiful things about Taurus is this great appreciation and enjoyment of pleasure and the physical world and nature. You know, often, you know, if you watch or listen to a Taurian speak about things like that, there's just so much reverence for the beauty of nature or the beauty of a beautiful piece of music or art, or, you know, that sense of real wonder and connection with the physical and with the land. I think that's a really helpful, you know, if things are getting very emotionally tumultuous and intense, you know, the simple practice of getting into the body and getting on the earth and listening to the birds can make the world of difference.
Well, you know, I'm thinking in very practical terms while you're talking now about Taurus loves a good feed.
You bet.
And then you've got like putting all this stuff into their body, yum, 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 yum. But then you've got Scorpio over here saying, no, that's no good for you. Get rid of it,
That's right.
Get rid of all that, So
All that toxic stuff. That's right.
Yeah.
So yeah, and the pleasure, just a simple, I as I said, I know many Taurians, and I love this about them, that utter enjoyment of the senses, just the delicious taste of a divine piece of chocolate. Like, it's not just gobble gobble, it's oh no.
Yes.
It's absolutely fully experienced through all the senses.
Yes.
It's a wonder to behold.
Oh, I'm just thinking of this friend I've got, if we get together, we'll all have some special treat. We'll bring, try this. Oh, how lovely. Try this. But that's one.
That's right.
Eyes light up.
That's right. And with a Taurian dad, we had so much food growing up. There was, honestly, the fridge was always full. You'd go to the markets, there'd be full boxes of fruit lined up, on the wall of the kitchen, and you could help yourself at any time. Freezer was full of meat. Like, there's just food.
Yes.
Never. So certain things were lacking, but on the material level, absolutely, nothing was lacking. Yep, there's just plenty, the sense of plenty. Whereas Scorpio can get by on, that old saying, the smell of an oily rag, if they have to.
Yes.
Yep. Yep. And and eat crackers for a month because there's no money.
Yeah. So different.
Very strong survival instinct,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, we've got these oppositional forces.
Yes.
Out in this planetary dance, haven't we?
That's right. And then, of course, there's sex. We haven't even mentioned that. These two signs are both very sexual energies.
Yes. Yeah.
Taurus in a very physical, sensual way, the pleasure of the body. And Scorpio, of course, it's everything. It's psychic, it's physical, it's emotional, it's energetic, it's all of that. It's really potent. And so maybe for some people, this will be a time where they can have some wonderful sexual experiences and release.
Well, all those Taurians, just make sure you don't get pregnant.
Yes, exactly. Because might be, in a very fertile cycle. Indeed. So, all right. So let's see now. So what else is going on? Let's have a look. So, at this time, let's talk about Saturn for a minute. So our dear mate Saturn, the Lord of Karma, the Lord of Time, that mean old bastard that's really a good guy in disguise as a bit of a mean old thing, is sitting right at 0 degrees of Pisces, and has been now, I didn't check the exact timing, but about 2 weeks, and it stays there for another week or two, because he's been moving retrograde now for about 5 months, and he's slowing right down, coming to a standstill. And on the 4th of November, will be stationary and slowly begin to turn direct again. So he's moving very slowly. You could say he's actually stationary, sitting right on 0. So 0 degrees of a sign, 0 degrees of a sign is, quite a potent degree, like the 29. They're very strong points. And for him to be sitting right on that degree, I know I've been feeling it very strongly because it's hitting something directly in my chart at 0 Pisces. I know many, not everyone, many others have been feeling it. And it can be a feeling of feeling bogged down, weighed down, exhausted, emotionally drained, having very little spare energy to give. Like it can feel like a real struggle. Pisces has certain kind of difficulties in even being embodied in the first place. So this presence of Saturn sitting here, and that can show up as, I've got a foot injury, so I have no choice. I've had to move so slowly. In fact, someone said to me this morning that an old Vedic image of Saturn, the god, is that he sort of drags his foot, he drags his legs, almost lame. And I thought, that's so interesting, because that's been what I've been experiencing.
Yeah, yeah.
The Saturn is leaden. There's a heavy density to this energy. And so for some people, they might be feeling emotionally, psychically, physically, just heavy and weighed down.
So Saturn governs, sorry, I'm going to say Saturn governs the skeletal system, the teeth,
Yes.
so just the bones though, right?
Yes, exactly.
Mm.
Like the bony calcium structures of the body, and also the skin.
Yeah. So the joints.
The joints also.
Yeah.
Yes. So, stiff, you see, Saturn rules old age.
Yeah, that's right.
And our bodies, even if we keep ourselves, reasonably flexible and active, the body just slowly becomes less flexible. I'm naturally quite flexible, but I'm not flexible like it used to be.
Yeah, yeah.
That's for
Well,
sure. Because the body gets older, we come to this more Saturnian period, and there's a slowing down of all the body's processes.
yeah.
Mm,
Well, you
yeah.
can't reverse that,
No,
which is
no,
really annoying.
no. Because, prior to the discovery of all the outer, what we might call the modern planets in the 1700s and onwards, Saturn was the end of the line, because he's the last planet visible to the naked eye. So the others weren't known about. They were there, but nobody knew about them.
Yeah.
So Saturn was also the planet of death and endings. It was the end. And, Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac. So while he's been retrograding in Pisces and moving back to that 0, he got to 7 and then turned back. I think part of that, and it's been my experience too, there's a sense of relinquishing, of letting go of something needs to come to an end here. There's a sense of closure. And if we're not willingly working with that process and going with it in some way, Saturn makes his presence very strongly felt and says, okay, we might have to force the issue a bit here.
No, I think it sets the use by dates, doesn't it?
That's right. Like, you got the message yet?
Yeah.
Okay, you haven't yet. All right, we'll try this. So it kind of works like that, certainly in my experience. But the gift of Saturn, the beautiful gift, is that clarity comes, when we're willing to, especially in Pisces, to relinquish and let go and get the message, whatever the message is coming through. Then we can move on from there. There was what I wanted to get to is, though, that from the 4th and the subsequent days and weeks, Saturn will slowly begin to get momentum and move forward as he comes out of retrograde. Many people are going to really feel that, especially if they've been affected by this Saturn. Feel a sense of, that feels better, a bit more open, more spacious, a bit released, a bit more free in themselves. I must admit, I'm looking forward to it.
Me too. I've been so restricted the last few months, really.
Yes.
With lower back vertebrae problems,
Right.
and left hip, right knee. It's like, oh, please.
And it really slows things down.
Oh, it's just so restricted because of it. Whereas normally I'd be running around like a, like
me too.
Yes, and like a beautiful gust of wind.
That's right.
Mercurial feet, little wings would be flapping, and I'd be running around. But I've just had to stop, and I've just had to take things slowly. And at times I haven't been able to walk up the stairs too well, and things like that. And I'm thinking, what is this about? And I think, I guess, like you, as we were saying in our pre-chat, we can be workaholics. So maybe it's a message to slow down a little bit, take the foot off the pedal.
Exactly, especially as the body is getting older and getting to the stage of life like, I'm not 35 anymore.
Yeah, I know. And there's a process, isn't it? There's something you have to work through that, and you have to accept it.
That's right.
But then look for different things at this chapter,
Exactly. exactly. So it is one of those watershed times, and yeah, and 0 degrees can also represent a kind of birthing. And so while there's this relinquishing and facing the hard reality, which is very Saturn, to me, he's the master of reality. And when things are going on in the body, like that's reality. We can't fantasize our way out of that one. That 0 degrees is also, there's this something in that of, and there's the possibility of something else that can be birthed and that can emerge out of this. Yeah. So I think that's a little gem there that's worth, acknowledging.
Yeah, I'll get to it.
Yes, indeed. Yes, exactly. So let's look, let's run through the things coming up in the next couple of weeks. So Saturn, interestingly, on the 4th of November, when Saturn turns direct at 0 degrees and 30 minutes of Pisces, Venus at 25 of Virgo will be exactly opposite Neptune at 25 of Pisces. So it's quite a Neptunian energy around the date of the 4th in those couple of days. So I'd be really encouraging, suggesting people kind of take it easy. You might be feeling really tired, really sensitive. Don't push too hard, just let that. And of course, these energies can be really beautiful as well, but not if you're trying to push and force things to happen. We're not paying attention what's really needed here.
Yeah.
On the 8th of November, Venus very happily moves out of Virgo, where she's busy, and goes into Libra, a sign that she loves being in, because it's a sign of Libra.
Yeah.
So we'll get 3 and a bit weeks of Venus at home in one of her own 2 signs, and she'll be happily making things beautiful, harmonious. She'll be out meeting people, relating, socializing, beautifying the home, whatever, or wanting to redecorate the office, or, whatever it is, just wanting to bring things up into beautiful harmony and balance. So that's lovely. When a planet comes home to its own sign, especially Venus.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah.
And then 2 days later, on the 10th, Mercury communication emerges out of the depths of Scorpio. I always get this image when any planet crosses from Scorpio into Sag, it always, to me, feels like climbs out of the depths of the well, climbs and looks out at the open landscape and the horizon, goes, wow, I'm out.
Yeah. Yeah.
All of a sudden there's a sense of expansion, but a lot has happened while it was in Scorpio. A lot of deep processing has gone on. And then I just think that's such a powerful cusp, that Scorpio to Sag cusp, because we emerge out of the cocoon and emerge as a butterfly with wings ready to fly.
Oh no, in Sag it's like, where's the party?
Right, where's the party? Get me on a plane, somebody. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
So that's really nice. So that's on the 10th. On the 12th, there's a Mars opposition in Scorpio to Uranus. That's a very volatile combination. Always when Mars and Uranus meet up in some way in an alignment, it's quite a dynamic, volatile one across that Scorpio-Taurus axis again. It can be a bit explosive. And then on the 13th, we have a new moon, which we'll get into next time. And it's a very strong Scorpio new moon, aligning very powerfully with Mars and Uranus. See, that Mars-Uranus opposition is on the 12th. And on the 13th, the sun and the moon join up with Mars. All of that is opposite Uranus. That's very, very strong. Quite catalytic and potentially cataclysmic.
Interesting.
And then, by the end of the month, everything comes out of Scorpio and we're off and away into Sag.
Yes, we're off into the party season, the silly season, the socializing, yeah,
That's
like
right.
you say, yeah, I love that time of year. It's just wonderful. And I
Yeah,
feel it because I am a Sag, but
you are. That's right.
yeah, and I just feel the great, oh gosh, how to explain it? Just the great sense of fun.
Fun, expansion, and yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
it's, I've always felt it
yeah,
as long as I could feel anything, as a kid.
yeah,
And for me at those times, because I didn't understand astrology, it was about Christmas coming, But, we seem to go through it as a society. We become lighter in our step. People have smiles
yes,
on their faces. There's no sense of drudgery, or there's less sense of drudgery.
yeah,
And there's more of a sense of exploration,
yeah.
openness, willingness, and just seeing a bigger picture. And we have come to the end of the year and we go, oh my God, thank God that's done. Now let's go have some fun.
That's right. That's right. And you notice these energies when you go to the public places, like even down the supermarket. If you're noticing, you'll actually feel the change of energy, as planets change sign. You can feel it in the collective vibe. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. So, well, I look forward to that. But in
Yes.
the meantime, there's a few things that are happening.
Yes. And of course, it's Halloween.
Yeah.
That's all part of it's interesting, isn't it, that this occurs in the Scorpio time of year?
Yeah. Yeah.
Totally perfect.
Yes.
That's
Bring
right.
out the ghouls.
Yeah.
Let them loose from the underworld,
That's right.
which we're about to do. Okay.
In the most fun way possible.
Yes, in a very Sagittarian way. Well,
That's right.
but thank you for all of that. That's really helpful and insightful. And of course, you've shared with us your wonderful knowledge of astrology and how it can affect us.
Thanks, Cheryl. I hope it's helpful for everyone as we navigate these times.
Yes.
Try and make sense of it all.
Yes, navigate really is the
Yeah.
words. And yeah, anyway, so let's leave that there. And if you enjoyed the episode, everyone, please like it and leave your comments. We love reading your comments. It's wonderful to get them. And share if you want to. But we will be back in another 2 weeks to look at the new moon in Scorpio and have a chat about that as well. So until then, stay safe, be well, and we'll see you then.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.